I've got Brett. I've known him a long time as Bitcoin cousin, because part of the Bitcoin army online on X. I initially met him because of Fug'em. I got he gave me in person some of this in Vegas at the last conference we saw each other at, and so I brought this as sort of uh, a a wake up to me in the Bitcoin cousin world. That's how I met and heard of Bitcoin cousin. He has recently written a great book. I am about halfway through it. We'll talk about why I couldn't finish it. I love it because it's the kind of things that I think about all the time. It's called The Belief Machine. It will resonate not just with Bitcoiners, but anyone interested in psychology, philosophy, personal identity, our responsibility, the stories we tell each other and ourselves about what holds life together. And it explores the way that people construct and defend your understanding of reality. So, using Bitcoin as a frame on things, the Belief Machine book examines what becomes visible when we inherit assumptions about why things fail, when consequences become personal, why and when convictions can no longer just be separated from identity, and reality hits us in the face. So we'll get into all kinds of things today. I'm really excited to have Brett on. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Great to be here. It's I was on once before. We got to meet in Vegas, and I had a great time out there. It was great. It's always great meeting Bitcoiners in person.
It's neat because you get to know someone sort of so well online or in a virtual space or even like doing this. And then there is something about analog that our brains and bodies and life experience needs. And then so when you see someone in person, it's this surreal spirit to it all that you're just like, yes, the energy is here, and it's really validating and fun. It was great to see in Vegas.
Absolutely. It really, like, you can feel people's energies. You can actually have nonverbal communication, sense people's, instead of just typing on a scroll stone or
Right.
a phone on X or like this, but you can really really get to know someone a lot better. And it's always a
Absolutely.
great.
Speaking of conferences, not to jump ahead too far, but you're going to be speaking at the Midwest Bitcoin Summit coming up here in September. Now, your talk being about Fug'em. Of course, you've written your book, The Belief Machines. That is super exciting. Do you feel nervous at all? You've been on stage, give a talk?
You know, there's always a little bit of nerves going into it. Like, we tend to suffer more in imagination than reality, though. So, I mean, it's kind of just, there's no point in
Yeah.
getting anxious about the future. And you know what? I can't really change the past. So I'm just really looking forward to living in the moment up there, delivering the message
Yeah.
as it comes to me, to be honest with you. I'll certainly prepare, given what information I have. But
It's good vibes because with Fug'em, you can chew the vibe, and it connects to things in your book where I was joking with a buddy of mine, a fellow Bitcoiner, co-founder of MicroSeed, who we were, we get into why people believe what they believe and the way people sort of navigate their day to day, or look at if they do, look at a bigger picture in the world at large. I feel like we convince ourselves that we have this kind of sanctity of like a rationale, a free will, a sentience that is coherent and makes sense. But then, to be honest, we kind of operate on vibes. With Fug'em, you can chew the vibe. So you chew the vibe is one of the mottos. And I feel like a lot of people operate on vibes. That said, we're humans. We need the vibe. We need to have that feeling, that spirit of our machine having an analog experience. And so the vibe is there, and we need that vibe, and yet we anthropomorphize ourselves in a way. Tell me about what inspired you to write the book.
Well, let me connect the dots between Fug'em and the book, because I think they both have a commonality, and they're both asking people to notice. They're asking people to pause. And I mean, to be honest, Fug'em, it's a fun joke and it's a total vibe, but my whole thought behind it is it's a modality for pause. It's for checking in with yourself. When something upsets you or, life gets in the way, pick up a pack of gum, look at, maybe there's something funny on it. You get a chuckle out of it, maybe, and you can just say, fuck them and move on
Yeah.
and just get on with your life. Now, the belief machine does the same thing. It asks people to look at their own machine and examine where their beliefs are coming from. The whole thing started really as I was just trying to answer the question of why do intelligent people dismiss Bitcoin? Like, well, what is it? Like, what's actually happening here? Because we've all had these conversations, and the book opens up with a conversation that I had with the vice president of my company that I work my fiat mine job.
And we've all, as a Bitcoiner, we've all had that kind of experience. I very much related to it like 10 times. So yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. So like, it's really about like, why is it? And the thing is he wasn't asking because he asked me about Bitcoin, right? Because I have Bitcoin custom plates, right? And they change like every other year. So every time I get a new plate, like there's always some kind of joke, right? But we were kind of at this meeting at this marina where it's just a launch. We were going to go out on the owner's boat, and he's just asked me about Bitcoin. He was generally interested, maybe not about Bitcoin, but just because I was interested in it. And I think he really cared. But a question came up, and I didn't know how to answer it at the time.
Yeah, like how do you insure it or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of a simple question, but it's really about what his machine is doing at the time. He's trying to understand Bitcoin through his fiat lens that he's been successful in.
Right.
And I think we meet people and we download all this information because we can name the supply, the block reward, the block height. This is what it is, inflation. And we just start throwing information, and it's absolutely logical and it's absolutely correct. But this stuff all lives much below anything that's logical, and it questions Bitcoin itself. Attacks, not necessarily attacks, but people need to revise or even look at, which is uncomfortable, their place in the world. Like the question that comes up is, what does this idea threaten about me?
Right.
And this could be any idea. And I want to be clear that the book looks at the psychology of belief through the lens of Bitcoin as a constrained environment, because Bitcoin is one of the few things in this world that actually puts us in contact with consequence. Everything else, most systems in this world pad us from actual so we never actually get the information about who we are interacting with the world outside of us. Like I think there's an example like gravity, right? Gravity doesn't care about your intent. It doesn't. If your rope is frayed, you're gonna fall.
Right.
Bitcoin is much the same way, right? So the same way that rope is telling you, hey, you should be responsible and check your equipment. Bitcoin takes somebody who says they're responsible and asks, are you?
Yeah, tests you.
It tests
and
you.
we've seen that so much lately too, with people that thought a lot of things, new levels of Bitcoin, and then we're surprised, call it what you will, and it's like, oh crap, I wasn't harnessed in completely. I thought I was. Why wasn't I? What did I believe? What did I not trust? We say don't trust, verify. What does that mean? Because we navigate a social trust layer, and then Bitcoin hits you right in the face with this kind of base reality, and you're like, oh. And then you're explaining that to others who have no concept of it. So that runs headlong into, the fiat construct we all live in. And people are like, oh, tell me more about it. So you start telling them the things, and it doesn't translate entirely. Or they have the question that you're like, and it's hard. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, to your point, like, and I call myself out in the book on the whole don't trust, verify. I've never read the Bitcoin code. I've read the white paper multiple times. I've never sat and read the code or plugged the code into Claude and said, "Hey, tell me what this actually means. Like, what's happening here?" So, and I don't know how many people have, but and another thing that's talked about in the book is we use stories are compression environments. We can take this incredibly complex, nuanced construct and just say, "Don't trust, verify," and give somebody something to leave the room with and pass out. We all have our idea of what that means, and it's incredibly important, right? Especially if your goal is sovereignty and personal responsibility. Well, sovereignty comes with personal responsibility on a level that our current systems never ask us to exercise, right? So Bitcoin's a mirror, not a forge. It's not gonna. It doesn't just you buy Bitcoin and all of a sudden you're just this responsible, patient, diamond-handed bro,
Right.
or gal walking around, and what it does is it exposes the gap between your who you think you are and what the world is actually telling you.
Right.
And that can be in sitting in that gap, and using it as information instead of defending it because it's uncomfortable. You can learn a lot about yourself, and then you can grow into the person that is what you claim to be. Because I don't necessarily think the mind has an amazing job at just editing what we are, and it takes the clips that agree with what we think we are, and it tosses the rest out.
Right.
And they just kind of sit off screen, and if we never look at them, I don't think we ever know. And part of sovereignty is taking personal responsibility for yourself, and I think you have to understand yourself and look at yourself to do that.
Yeah. Like I want to just say, oh, Bitcoin changed me. But it was a lot of work where when you think about when people come across new ideas, you look at how marketing occurs. It's the promotion, it's vibe, putting out vibe. And so then a lot of people, when they discover Bitcoin, they might resonate with something or some different things about it for different reasons. But oftentimes they start to feel that vibe. And then sometimes they stop there, like, oh, I got it figured out. And I went through those iterations myself again and again and again as layers of it got peeled away. And I was like, oh, this, and then the next level, and the next level. And then now we're into the recent zeitgeist in Bitcoin is about entropy, entropy and what that means. So people are like getting to these levels and starting the vibe starts to go away as the reality of it keeps smacking you in the face in a way. And that's a test because you get into it in quite a lot of detail, which let me just say, I love your book. I tried to finish it last night and I got busy family stuff. We're traveling in the moment. And but it hammers point after point after point that follows trains of thought that I follow all the time when I think through these things about when I when I feel rejection or I've failed or I presume things or there's a disagreement or where do I fit among other people, and so much about how we think navigates a social layer and we want to fit in. And so when you find, like with the Bitcoin army and other Bitcoin communities, you find that safe social layer where you resonate with other people at a different awesome level, and then you can kind of just saddle up with that and then be like, I'm fine. And not to say that you stop doing the work, but sometimes that's trust, you might say. That's you feel that validation, that trust, and the work involved is continues to test you. And so then you stop back and I catch, I'll feel it where it's like, wow, I thought I knew things, or I don't, people will tell me, oh, you know so much about Bitcoin. And I'm like, yes and no, like I'm always learning. There's always another layer to this. And I was going to read something in your book, bringing it to stage here, the belief machine. You you can go to thebeliefmachine.org. There, I pinned some areas in this book I want to read, because I totally just resonate with this as I'm reading it. Sentence after sentence after sentence, I'm just like, yes, I like this. These are the things I think through when I'm doing my internal dialogue about what in the heck's going on in the world and what drives people, what drives myself. Why do I act the way I do? You say, this is one of your first set of chapters. Much of what passes for thinking is adaptation to group norms, to reputational risk, to emotional comfort, the need for the story to stay continuous. These adjustments happen fast, and by the time reasoning gets going, the direction is already set. The mind does the thing it is the mind does the thing it is genuinely brilliant at. It builds an elegant case for a position that was chosen before the case existed, and your intelligence makes the case better. Anyway, we presume a lot of things about. I catch myself all the time, and you make that point in your book, is that this is no conclusion that is like, oh, now you figured it out. It's like this is an endless journey where I'm rethinking through why and how I think the way I do. And when confronted, or when I catch myself reacting in a way, I have to take a pause and say, why? Why do I feel this way, act that way? It could be about family, parents, my boss, the job, money, Bitcoin, everything in the world. Some guy I met across the street with. There's little things in the moment where we're operating on vibes subconsciously. The whole trope around NPCs or whatever. It's like, wait, no. We're all going through this experience that some of us attempt to be conscious about and others truly don't, I would say.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I really made an intention to write this, and I left a lot of story. It was twice as long, to be honest. And I cut so many stories out and so many things out because I don't want this to resolve. The machine doesn't resolve itself. You don't escape it. It doesn't matter if you're the Dalai Lama. The only difference is he's learned to sit there and look at his machine, and he understands its tricks and sees what's going on. Right. So it is a constant practice. The constant noticing that you brought up, that it just never evolves. And the thing is, you're running the same machine I am, and it's really easy to point it out in other people and never turn the knife on yourself. And I think it really begins by looking at yourself first. And, we have this inherited reality that came through culture and family and, everything. And it becomes like a language, right? We learn it like language and we're using it, and we don't even, like, I'm speaking this sentence right now and I'm thinking about what I'm saying, but I'm not thinking about the language. It's just is, right? And it's the same thing in my opinion of the machine. It just is. And the only opportunities we really have is kind of, it's the environment that we brought to it. People who have had encounters with consequence in the past, maybe it's hardship, maybe it's just they were held responsible for their actions from a very young age, are able to sit with it a little bit more, to sit in that gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think people who come from a more, and this isn't anything to do with money, right? It's just a more padded, I want to say upbringing, but environment. They haven't had to sit with that consequence. So when they meet it the first time and their map is no longer matching the terrain that it's meant to guide them through,
right,
they keep running up against these walls. And you have two choices. You can, it's cognitive dissonance, right? It is really what it is. You have the choice to revise the map, or you can start over and question. So the guy crossing the street, it's also domain specific, right? So we can say we're patient people. And I think all in all, many of us are patient, but like I'm definitely more patient with children than I am with the guy hanging out in this fast lane, right?
Right.
So I'm losing my mind in my car, but like, a kid can paint all over the walls and it's just like, kids will be kids kind of thing. We can, but to Bitcoin, like the volatility will test that patience. Like how patient are you? So now
It's
you're
interesting. It's interesting that you bring up patience, because when I was reading your book and you asked the question, think in yourself, like what feelings you have when things come up, and your internal process. I catch myself, and I've questioned why I do this, but I've questioned myself all the time that what I feel like and maybe it's my age, maybe it's having kids, maybe it's being at a certain level at a job or whatever, but I exercise patience all the time. And I've caught myself being patient, or, I translate the things going on in my head with the theater and stage I have to navigate for a job, or when I'm talking with other people. In that process, at times when I feel myself exercising patience, it's my map not mapping with maybe the map at large or the map for that person or whatever. And or it's easier for me to see cracks in their map and not the cracks in mine. So my crack in a way is, okay, I feel like I am exercising patience, but I'm polite, I'm kind, I am good at patience. But when I feel that patience, I have to stop and be like, why am I feeling this way about it? Um, what is that about?
And are you
Uh,
performing patience or are you feeling patience? Because that's the other thing too. We can perform all these things very well. We know what they look like, but is it like, are we actually being patient, or are we just doing what the social norm says we should act like in that moment?
Right. I guess when I'm feeling it, I'm just performing it and not actually good at it.
Yep.
Bazooka mentions when you're patient, you're able to listen to the universe. It brings up a point to some of this, like what you're getting to. There is a zen to, I guess, in a way, being good at it, not having like the destinations firm and clear, not like, oh, I got to do this. There's a zen to kind of like balancing being here now, having a map without lying to yourself, and then managing a world at large, which is different, right or wrong, and navigating all that. The vibe you've always given me over the long time that I've known you has been a kind of a zen. Does being good at this stuff and being more self-aware in this regard, does it connect with a kind of a zen in the art of Bitcoin?
um as much I appreciate that, and my machine wants to reach for it right now, but no,
Hmm.
I would like to think so, and it is something I work on a lot. um um but like even right now hearing that, right, like that's a very nice thing to say, and like to be honest, I that's something I would absolutely strive for, but I notice how hard I want to or how much I want it to be true.
Hmm.
And I think that's the tell, because if it were true, I think it would just be. I wouldn't. I think life should flow through you, not to you. And I think when you feel something like that, it's hitting something inside of you, um, that should be examined. Now,
Uh-huh.
so really the question is like, why do I want that to be true?
Right.
Like, right? Because
Mhm.
I do think that's noble. But like, again, like why? And you can just keep going completely down the rabbit hole, of like, take any compliment. Just like, what? Why does this feel so good? It's hitting something, inside that. It's like massaging an ego. Um, is really what I think it is. And that doesn't mean it's not true either. It
Sure.
doesn't mean it just because the 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 goal is not to trust yourself less or what you're feeling less, but to know which parts of you have earned it. And
Hmm.
I don't feel like I have earned that compliment.
That's a very humble and honest view. And, I think at times, even as you're on the path, if you stop and say, wow, yeah, I'm on the path. Yeah, I got things figured out. Suddenly you've left the path.
Yes, that's the biggest trick, right? And I think people who examine this stuff fall into a very it's a trap, and it only happens to people who think critically about these things, because it is work and it takes time and it takes a certain level of self-awareness. But then by doing that work, you feel like you're reaching somewhere, or like it's
Mm.
not it's not a
Hmm.
it's not a pedestal per
Yeah.
se, but it feels like
And as soon as you make that push or reach, um, that can distract or derail your incentives. And uh, thinking thinking of your own path, your writing. Now, maybe you've always been a good writer. You're a great writer. Not now. We're stroking egos here. When
yeah,
we're aiming, Bitcoin is like ego death, and
yeah, right.
talking about this is seeing truly the cracks in your map as you write about it. You have a map, you see cracks in it, and how that strikes you, and it's like these little clips of ego death, and then managing that ego death, reconciling that, and moving on. You started with writing on Bitcoin, not crypto. So the first book you wrote was navigating, kind of like coming to Bitcoin, as we do, with number go up and fiat excitement brain and the vibe of it all. And writing this book was your journey and through discovering why we Bitcoin. So it starts on that kind of a path of trying to understand and view base reality, and not just like the wrong incentives, high time preference, and all that, but a better time preference, a better why, a better money for the digital age, and all the good incentives about that. This sort of sets a foundation in a Bitcoiner world for why we Bitcoin, and managing that, if you will, ego death about it. So this sort of set a foundation upon which your next book gets much deeper philosophically into the psyche, the inner psyche of things, which I have
Yeah.
so many thoughts about. But tell me about that journey of your writing.
Well, so Bitcoin, not crypto, was me proving or performing I knew facts. I never pushed that book at all. I think I made one post about it. I think it's a great book for people who are coming to Bitcoin and just want to understand, hey, maybe this is why you shouldn't shitcoin, or, it's, but reciting facts is not the same as understanding them. And I think just my own feeling about it, it was just a little bit more performative.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that anything in it is wrong or unfactual or it's not fun to read or it's not entertaining or like any of that. It's just from the place where I wrote it from, it was not the same place as the belief machine. Like I am in this book. It's me in the machine broadcasting out, this is what it feels like, and hoping people catch the signal. Right.
Yeah.
I was really
Yeah.
intentional in the way I wrote it, as far as just like I wanted it to hit people's like egos in places. I wanted people to notice, and like some thoughts aren't like fully like resolved on purpose, because I want people to, when they read it, to be like, this is unfinished, but like finish it themselves, because that's the work, right?
Right.
Where, in Bitcoin not crypto is doing something completely different. It's like, hey, here's the facts about Bitcoin. This is why it's sound money for digital age. Nothing else is like it. And it's a strong argument. Like there's no holes in the argument. I think it's a very strong argument. I just, it doesn't have the same soul. I don't know how else to put it. And I think I always felt that about it. So I never really like pushed it. That, and I hate shilling stuff. Like it's just I don't have that muscle. I hate it. So even like
I don't either. I mean,
I feel cringe when I post something like, hey, I wrote a book, and I just feel cringe about it, and I shouldn't, because I'm really proud of it. So I appreciate opportunities like this where I can come on and just kind of have a nice dialogue about it, instead of it seeming like I'm just hey, buy my stuff, and that's really not what it's about. There's even a story in the book about like a lunch I had with a friend. I told him I was writing this, and his response was, why?
I'd never thought of that.
Yeah, why? Like, why? And I know now that I'm on camera, like you can kind of my face acts as subtitles for my thoughts sometimes. And
not good at poker.
Yeah, kind of. And he wanted like his response back was like, I'll calm down, I'll buy the book. It's like, no, bro, like that's not what I'm looking for. Like, I was telling you because I was excited about something and you're my friend. I wanted to share this with you. Like I was, just finishing it up. Well, the I don't know, 6th iteration, like I was finally getting ready to, start making some moves on it. And just like, why? And I know where it came from. And I don't know why I took the mask off, right?
What do you mean, why? Don't you support me?
Yeah.
Your ego rises right up, like,
exactly.
Because
exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's like, why that feeling of being vulnerable. Great friend, great person, like whatever. If I have a flat tire and they're 2 hours away, he'll hop in his truck at 3 a.m. and come help me out. Like, great friend. But we are different things to different people. And I think anyone who says they're not is lying to themselves, and probably should just examine that a little bit, because everything is domain specific. Somebody can be fiery in the lunchroom and then calm in the meeting. You know what I mean? Like, it's we all have and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it, because it's part of it. I think it's just knowing why you have it, what it's protecting, and the work it's doing.
Right.
Instead of just like walking around not really knowing, like there's no direction there. Then you just don't know. You're just like flipping through masks, trying to figure out which one makes you fit into this crowd and that. And then you really never develop a sense of self.
Right.
Or a sense of like even conviction about your beliefs, because you're just constantly performing for the room.
Right. I have felt like that a lot in my life. Now I could look back on it. It's a survival tactic for me to get through a childhood with divorced parents and whatever. You have these survival mechanisms to read the room, and there's kind of an emotional intelligence about it, a social intelligence that has to be adaptive and has to fit in. And from this room to the other, I play a different role. I have a different personality. I want to fit in. And that can be superficial, where you get lost in like, but who am I though? Or do I have, or maybe I know more or less, but I keep having to act fake. And if so, why? Am I afraid of conflict? Yada, yada. But anyway, being a chameleon is something that a lot of people that are quite successful get good at, because you're just socially attuned and navigating flexibly, if you will.
Yeah.
We can get lost in that too. And then, so then the big ultimate question is like, know thyself. Who are you?
Mhm.
Who are you truly? And when you think you know, why? And are you done, or is this a journey? It's kind of that question of the ages of carved into the temple of Apollo. Know thyself.
Yeah.
Okay, how?
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you being true to yourself?
Well, like none of us got an instruction manual with our meat suits in our minds, right? So we're all on a journey, and I think there's some empathy that comes along with that. Is understanding, hey, everyone else around us is on the same journey, working with the same machine. But back to your point, like we evolved as social animals. Like our
Yeah.
brain, however, like our body registers rejection the same as it does a physical threat.
Hmm.
Um, and we do read the room for rank every single time. And there's, and again, like this book is not trying to change anything. It's just trying to make you aware of what we're doing. So if we evolved as social animals because being kicked out of the tribe meant loss of
Death.
resources, yeah, death, loss of resources, loss of mates,
Yeah.
loss of, you know, whatever. So, and then it carries on. So we're working with this ancient machinery in a world now that changes so fast and is significantly different. And so now our jungle is like boardrooms or meetings, and our brain doesn't recognize the difference because it evolved in a different time. So being yelled at by your boss is like the tribe owner or the tribe owner, the leader of the tribe, like ostracizing you. And it
Yeah.
registers the same in the body and you can feel it, right? So again, it comes back to like, what does this idea threaten about me? Like, it's a question about cost. So when you start talking about fringe ideas like Bitcoin and it threatens your belonging, you're going to reel from it.
Uh-huh.
If you're not in situations that are open or allow for questioning dialogue, you really have to um, adjust to the room. And we are attuned to do that very well. Like,
Mm.
and I think it's just very, very important. Again, I just want to reiterate that it's the machine working. Like it's like you can't fault yourself. In that I mean like it's not like a personal failure that you put on a mask to go into a meeting that pays your salary.
Right.
There's nothing like that's completely normal.
Yeah.
The point is that like you're never going to get anywhere in just understanding yourself better if you just don't recognize that you're putting a mask on. And I think most of us intuitively do. We just never put our finger on it. We
Uh-huh.
never like give it a name to place our questions about it, right? Um,
Yeah. When I think about these things as I do, sometimes my impression is that other people aren't aware of it or thinking about it. They just sort of think, no, my sense of reality really is reality. The things I do and say are real and true, and I'm just kind of like keeping it real or whatever. Um, and you can have a desk job and have all this stress up to a heart attack, and you're under no physical threat whatsoever, but our brain treats it the same, and your whole chemical electrical body responds as if it might as well be a tiger in the room when it's just kind of like, okay, so say you get fired or whatever, but our brain goes through these stress responses. um do you find, so I guess what I often do is, and you touch on this in your book. It can be about Bitcoin. It can be about thinking the things you think and coming to realizations and some self-actualization. And then as you look out in the world and you engage with that and other people, pushback or don't get it or can't get it or have apparently no curiosity in the world, uh, it has to like they have to like need it for some reason before they want to stop and think and be creative and thoughtful about something. So you run into that. And so then what my ego had done in the past was you start feeling like, okay, well, I'm different, or I'm smart, or I'm special. I'm smarter. Uh there Everybody's an NPC. I'm a player, they're non-player characters. It can get to your head in that way where then you get cynical and you're just like, man, the fucking world and the people and literally if you stop and look, you're like, yeah, what a bunch of bullshit, or I can't believe this and that and the other. And you're reminded by it all the time. You see it. And so like, let alone in politics. So like there's politics and then there's um, on X or even within Bitcoin, just, a lot of these narratives and stuff. And it's easy to get cynical in a way. So what I had to manage was let's connect it to like, so book one, I get the vibe, I get excited, I'm in on Bitcoin, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just feeling chewing the good vibe. And then what I'm feeling for myself personally is I've figured something out. And then that doesn't translate easily to, say, my wife or my family or other friends or at work, because I'm like talking about it and explaining it, and one to orange pill, and they have questions, and oh, I'm so smart and I have answers. And then sometimes I'm challenged and I'm like, well, they don't get it. And then that's where the feelings you run into when you encountering translating the truth behind Bitcoin, not crypto, over to the belief machine is like that next level of reconciling life itself and your belief system, your psyche, and getting to the core essence, aside from whatever topic it may be, Bitcoin, crypto, politics, sports, whatever. It's getting to like zooming way out, killing your ego a little bit and going, what is behind all of these things? And I can do my own inner work, but now I'm seeing it in other people. Like they're all
Yeah.
doing the same or not, honestly. Do you ever feel like most people just aren't doing the work and just are like, no, I get it. Things make sense to me. Things are just this way. There's an they don't even see the Overton window. There's an Overton window to reality, and to them, there's no window. It's just what it is.
So the third act of this book is about living, understanding your machine when those around you don't. Like chapter 8 is called Conviction Without Consensus, and it's pretty much very close to what you're talking about. It's about living, knowing your machine while everyone else around you just doesn't give a fuck,
Right.
or however we want to put it. But like, the thing is I think a book like this can make it very easy to point out other people. And all I can do and all I know is I I just watch my own bouter. I worry about the things I control. If they're over here being an NPC, does me thinking they're an NPC really do any good to anything? I don't know. I just think it's probably just energy that I'm putting out in like negative, like we don't know what someone else is going through or what somebody else's mind or
Yeah.
anything. Like we can only examine ourselves, and this is just a lot of work to even say that, because to be honest, like the larger part of me wants to say they're all effing idiots. Like what the hell, why can't anyone see this? Like it's so logical, it's so everything, right? And just start pointing the finger and calling names. But I think, like touching back, I think that's performative. I think conviction isn't it doesn't need to be loud, because
Yeah.
it's not for anyone else but yourself. Like when you've examined these things, it doesn't matter if somebody else has or hasn't. You almost like feel more empathy that they haven't, that they're still trapped in the machine, and you know what, they'll probably never get free from it.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say it. Let me retract that. None of us are free from it. They'll probably never even realize they're in it. They'll never even get past chapter 1. They won't even recognize they're in a machine of beliefs, or inherited realities, and every they probably. And I don't think we get to say we're superior because we ask different questions. I just don't. I think that is the machine itself wanting to give you something that you feel you've earned, and you've done the work, but the reward is you get to level up. You get to maybe be a little free. Maybe you get to let life flow through you a little more instead of blocking it and trapping it inside and having that energy just do whatever it does. Like, just mess. I don't know. I'll go back to the traffic. So you're driving in traffic. I use this analogy all the time. But if you're just driving along and you're having your thoughts and you're thinking, you don't notice all the cars passing you by. You don't notice every single tree that's going by you. You don't notice all the buildings. Life is just flowing through you. Now somebody cuts you off and you have to hit your brake. What inconvenience did that really cause you? Not really anything. But what happens? At least to me, I can't speak for anyone else, but what happens?
I don't cuss much, but I'll cuss in traffic, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
wow, I take this so personally, and they're just
yeah.
like, duh, duh, duh. They don't even know.
That's my point. Is like, what those things that cause us, that car that cuts us off, whatever it is, maybe something use their term, whatever. Those things that like just hit something inside of us that cause a reaction that doesn't match the situation. What is that? What is that? And I think life is just the ultimate is to let it just flow through you and be open to it. And that person who cuts you off, that they cut you off, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Now, just because I think that and somebody else walks around whatever their idea is, doesn't mean that I get to be right and they get to be wrong. I get to be superior. They're an effing idiot. I don't think that does any good. I don't think it does any good in any situation, really. I think it is the machine defending itself.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know a way out of it, and I don't offer an answer out of it.
Yeah.
But like, what are these?
Go ahead.
What is it threatening about you? Like, what is
Right.
it cutting you off? What's it threatening
Right.
about? Your idea of patience, maybe? I don't know.
Right. Maybe it touches on something that, we have insecurities in ourselves. And sometimes like we grow and come to know things and feel secure about things. And that's a sense of control. Like having self-control, it's like a good trait. You can manage yourself, you have self-control. And then when you see others that don't, or not in the way you do, and you want to have control over that, it's like a lot of times people like, I want control over things that are beyond me, outside my control. And you can't have that control, and you're not gonna. And so then you're like, and then it's like, what are you insecure about? It's like coming to that peace with uh, a world of entropy, a chaotic world, other people doing people things. Um, it gets into from the individual and individual instances to zooming out. Uh, Knut Svanhold wrote a good book on called Praxeology, and I met him in Prague, and I didn't realize he'd written that book, but then I started reading into it and about say praxeology, human action, human incentives. It gets into Austrian economics. Why do people do the shit they do? And they think they know why, and they don't even know why. And it's like this force of nature. It's like behind me, the tide coming in or going out. And humanity is like this force of nature. And here we are on the beach stacking and being humble and building our sandcastle, and we want the tide to do this or that or the other. The moon is its own thing. TikTok next block. The moon's going to do its thing. But we are here focused on our sandcastle going, monkeys on the beach. And so looking at this is a whole spaghetti bunch of stuff, but it all ties together for me. Austrian economics, praxeology, human action, and incentives. It's a big scope of how we all navigate this world together. And ultimately, that so much is just outside of our control. And yet, Bitcoin is Bitcoin and just follows these consensus rules. So, and even in Bitcoin, we saw desires over control about Bitcoin colliding. And people get caught up in one angle or another about that, having control there and managing that. Now it goes one way or the other. I'm zen about it, zooming out. Somehow we survived that yesterday. I guess TikTok next block. And so Bitcoin remains. And how we grapple with all that. And we're still here, right? And so what am I saying here? The praxeology of looking at a herd mentality. There's a term called anthropomorphization where we put human characteristics on things, and we like your pet, your dog, your cat, whatever, and we treat them like little people, or we presume things about stuff. It's what we relate to as humans. We humanize things in our world. What does that even mean, to be human? Because I would say we anthropomorphize humans. We anthropomorphize ourselves because we think that is a thing, or and that thing is rational, sensible, smart, knows what it's doing, has control over things. And when those walls come down or are tested or shattered, we step back and have to reconcile, okay, wait a minute. Where are we all going, and what really affects me, and how does that define me? Anyway, it's just a long journey. I don't mean to ramble there. I guess I don't have a question, but zooming out, there's the herd effect. I guess I'll translate it real quick to the Overton window, like I mentioned. There's a quote, who said it? Max Planck, I think, a physicist, who said, like, basically, scientific progress occurs with every funeral, because in a work setting, you can relate to this in your professional work. I can as well. There's a group mentality around an idea. So a lot of our experience occurs at work. This is what normal is. These are the rules we work with. This is what is like right and wrong, real, not real. Oh, that's nonsense. Oh, that's important. And so we frame a sense of reality around this sort of Overton window, say at work. And then you're there as a Bitcoiner in a meeting, and your brain is going into, I'll be at a meeting talking about projects, programs, what it costs. Do we have the money? And I'll sit there and I'll have these existential feelings of like, what is money? Where is this money coming from? There's a reason we have these problems, and we're talking about the little bits of it. And I'm looking at the fact that the money's broken. That's why we have these problems. The money's broken. But God, if I said that in a meeting, they'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you talking about?
Probably won't even know what that means.
Yeah.
What do you mean the money's broken? I got this coffee in my hand. You know what? So yeah. That
Elizabeth brings up the Serenity Prayer. I that's maybe where I was going with that. Thank you, Elizabeth. She connected me to you to get you on for the book here. That's why I reached out to you. I was peripherally aware you had a book, and she said, "Hey, you got to get him on." So,
Elizabeth's the best.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes. So the Serenity Prayer is something that maybe you're not a person of faith. Maybe you don't hang your hat on a certain hook. I'm not prescriptive about it, but there is. When I had mentioned even things about Zen, it's kind of like knowing the things that you can change in the world, the things you can't, being able to decipher that that difference, and having a serenity about a more sustainable vibe, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean they got it from Stoicism. You know,
Tell me about that. I don't
just
know a lot about that.
just worry about what you can control is like one of the major tenets. There's and probably my first contact with that idea was through that Serenity Prayer, but um, that that is part of my whole idea of protecting your energy and optimizing for clarity. Is we there's no all I can do is worry about me. If I'm out here trying to solve everyone else's problems and everything else about the world or everything outside of me is causing a disturbance inside of me, the issue is inside of me because the
Right.
world is the world. It doesn't care. We're riding on we're in meat suits riding on a rock through space made of stardust. Like not there's so many more forces at work that can't even comprehend, right?
Hmm.
And we sit here and we want to control the tide because it's gonna ruin our freaking sandcastle. That energy isn't serving us,
Yeah.
I don't think. And I think part of what that serenity prayer is really trying to get at, well, I mean, it's about sobriety. I'm pretty sure they teach it in AA.
AA has incorporated it into some of their stuff, but
Sure.
yeah, I think the
So
Serenity Prayer came first. I
I'm
in
sure
my line of work, I work with
they didn't
people
make,
that have addictions, but yes, um,
but I mean, so I think back to, I don't know. I want to reach for stuff that I'm not qualified to talk about.
I know. Dare I bring up religion because I have family who are devout religious in different ways. I have other family that, in a way, are consider themselves atheists, but in a what is that other than a different flavor of a faith, if you will, but wanting to be scientific. I'm at my core fairly scientific, is the story I tell myself. Um, but Orwell wrote about like doublethink and then newspeak, and then that's been turned into let's see who I had to write that down because I was thinking about this, but the term groupthink, the idea of having groupthink, it was there's this group think that can happen where basically you have a safe group, and so you can identify with belief systems that fit that group and work for you. So it's not about what is really true at a base layer. It's the gestalt of all of that that works and creates social cohesion and is gives you peace of mind and a sense of trust and hope in a chaotic universe. So I get it. It works. Um, I've also seen in my own family, but religion that is sort of like you said, you can say, okay, here's these rules. Well, just there's these rules, just follow the rules. And then looking at the deeper why behind that, sometimes that's tolerated and sometimes it's like, don't be questioning things. So sometimes the act of questioning, I think a lot of Bitcoiners are kind of Sigma in their thinking. They're willing to be um, to question, to be curious, to be different, and seek your own truth and find that base layer. And then we operate in a world where there's a lot of just social cohesion, social groupthink that can occur. And so then you're interfacing with that, feeling different, feeling like you don't fit in.
Yeah.
And then really managing a an avatar of yourself that fits there. And then you leave and you're like, ah, like, what am I doing?
So the things humans do really well is we create these intersubjective realities and we turn those into stories, and those stories become culture. And we all live inside these stories and we all become characters within, Jung will call them archetypes, whatever. But what really is happening is we're creating stories about what society should be like. We're all living in these, your corporation has a story, your job has a story, they have a mission statement, right? They even have a mission statement. This is our mission. Like, all of these are stories that we function inside of. When you see the story and you're still inside of it, it causes some type of like disturbance, right? And then, like you're saying, you have to interact with everyone else who has no idea they're living out inside this story, or they've swallowed the pill of what this is supposed to be like, of what money is, of what you name it. You want to name the religion, name the religion. If you want to talk about religion, like, I'm just saying that goes right back into inherited realities, because a person who grew up in Iran is going to have a totally different reality than the person who grew up in the United States. Neither person chose where they grew up, but their realities are incredibly different, and their machine learned it like language from the second they were born. So now they have this idea of what is right or what a good person is, whatever, and we have this idea. And then we clash on whatever, because my inherited reality doesn't match your inherited reality. Now we're at conflict, and never stop to question, like, where did this even come from? Like, why? And that's great. Like, have all your faiths, all whatever, to be, why not? If it's serving you, if it's giving you something positive in your life, I don't see any problem with any of it. And you know what? It's not my place to even judge it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think it's the questioning of, what is this actually doing for me? And what does questioning it threaten about me? And it's always the people who get loudest who are performing a conviction.
Yeah, it tells you more about, like, say when it's directed at you. For me, I've reframed it as like it tells me more about them and where they're at than it is really about me. And then I try to practice. This came to me from my friend about a year ago. When we ourselves, sometimes, your good friends are ones that are willing to be honest with you and say, like, why are you writing that book? Or why, challenge you even. And even as a good friend. So I was having, a constructive, gentlemanly disagreement with a friend of mine. And he would challenge me. And he told me a story about how he was arguing with a professor once in college. And the professor said, "Stop. I'm just telling you, you're wrong. You're not listening to me." And so for me, I try to employ this kind of, it's my little pause that I give myself when I realize, okay, I can get defensive or react, or I can try to learn and understand something from this and grow. And it's this idea of radical acceptance. So someone says something, and it could be my wife, it could be my boss or a coworker, whoever, my kid. And I could just, in my head, I immediately know, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and I know why. And if I stop, kind of like reflective listening, if I stop and just treat it from a perspective of radical acceptance, I am going to accept what you say and think about that first and engage with you in a way that's constructive and not get into a fight. It's hard to do because it's ego. Your ego is involved. And instead of being like, no, no, here's why. I'm going to make my case. I'm going to win. And just stopping and being like, okay, am I hearing you? Do I really understand? Do I know why you're saying can I steel man your case, basically? And that's hard to do.
Yeah. And, something, is it more important to be right than it is? But it's also hard when the other person thinks it's more important to be right. Right. And now they want to push it. And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, I'm protecting my energy. You're right. Who cares? But this is why I'm right. Like, I don't need to argue with anyone. I don't really care. There's very few things that I'll personally just cling to, right? I think most of our most of our problems come from just clinging and not letting life flow through us, to be honest with you. I think we'd be much more peaceful. But when an argument happens, I mean, what's more important, being right? Is that's what was it serving? Okay, I'm right. Now what? Now you feel like shit. Now whatever. Like what's the question under the question? It's the same thing that guy at my vice president at the marina asking how it's insured. What's the question underneath of that? What is he protecting? What are they protecting with anger or this type of emotional outburst? Now, I mean, I'm certainly not exempt from them. And I'm certainly not exempt from wanting to be right. Everyone, like, it it feels good. And I think Bitcoin, I'll bring it back. There's a certain type of person in Bitcoin, someone who's came to it early, right? And they were right. And they sat through all the dinners and they sat through all the bear markets and their friends laughed at them. And they caught all the shit that we tend to catch from, and then it runs. And there's a certain feeling there of I was right. And there's this like type of vindication. And it's that, I don't know, sticky sensation, or, you know, it's sticky. It wants to like, and now you take that being right into other domains. And now I'm the person who can see early. I'm the person who understands. I'm the person, and now you're, 5 years down the line and you have another investment or something else and you're clinging to it because you know what? You're taking one domain into another domain, or you're taking your experience being right on this one call, and now your identity is I'm a person who's right. I'm a person who can see early. And then all the conflict that causes and lack of self-examination. Because originally you did the work. You sat there with Bitcoin or whatever it was, and you held it diamond-handed through the thing, white-knuckled it, and then, but you never like opened your palms. And now you're just white-knuckled on everything, just holding on because you're the person who can do that. And an identity starts forming around that. I think Bitcoiners are really freaking good at this. And you see it in communities all the time. And it's no different for Bitcoin than anything else. But you see these communities, whatever, fuck it, the Bippers, right? You got this side and that side, and they're both forming identities around this idea. And I mean, I don't know what's going on in their head, but I never saw a post that said, is any of this good for Bitcoin? Is any of this good for the network? And each of them think they're right. And each of them have their idea of why it's right. But like, I don't even know where to go with it because I don't have the technical background to be like, you know what? This is wrong because, and I don't have the time to go through it. That's not my lane, right? So then we have this like deference, and we get in these communities where the louder voices are speaking on one side or another, but we're never sitting like, why? Like, why is everyone performing like this? Like, what's going on here? And sometimes you got to yell it from the mountain. I get it for the people down below to hear you. And I don't see anything wrong with being passionate about things, but it just seems like so much conflict comes about from just needing to be right. And I don't understand.
Yeah.
In the end, what it is actually serving. If you examine the idea and it's sound, who else needs to hear you? Well, what's it matter?
Yeah, it's like managing both when you're wrong, managing that, and then when you're right and proven right, or maybe you're elevated to a certain status, managing also being right. And with the BIP 110 stuff, I have my personal values and views and preferences about things, but that collided with the network and consensus itself of, like you said, what's good for Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin even? And I had to step back and say, I would like things to be certain ways in the world, but they're not. So um, I applied the Serenity Prayer over BIP 110, and it's like,
Yeah.
um, I could get emotional about my wanting control over my personal views on things, or I could step back and know that Bitcoins, and it don't care what I think or what any of us think. It is, and
Well, so
yeah,
I'll just go into like it's in a lot of this book too, but it's coherence, right? Like we have an idea of what the world's like, and we want the map to match the terrain. And when we reach something like that, we don't update it. Like a worldview can be totally stable and totally right, but it can be inherently just false. We, whatever, we thought that the friggin' sun went around the earth for how long? And all we did when an eclipse happened or something crossed this orbit, they couldn't explain something in the sky, they just made another circle on the map. They did it for 1400 years. They just kept updating the map to match reality, but you weren't changing it. You were just adding more stuff. You're doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. And sometimes I think changing a belief can mean revising, like, right? Like, just think of all the things, like, fuck it, let's use this as an example. The Biblin 10, like all the status, all the relationships, the competence, the certainty, past decisions you've had, professional identity, and oftentimes, like, the evidence involved in the belief is the cheapest part of the transaction. Like, it's not even, like, it doesn't even register. Like, who cares what the evidence is? Same, like, I use Semmelweis. I forget his first name, whatever. So women were dying after they gave birth,
oh yeah, right,
right? And this guy's like, well, he noticed when they washed their hands, like, these women weren't dying. Well, it took the
hmm
institutions a very long time to update the fact that we need to wash our hands after we autopsy someone and go into deliver a baby. And
right,
because what happened, the idea that they were killing mothers because their hands were dirty was too hard to deal with than just simply saying, hey, now we wash our hands, what's the worst that?
right.
But no, it hit their idea of being a doctor, of what
If I
even they
remember,
were. Yeah.
yeah, when you described that in your book, and I remember hearing that about that story where people thought he was nutty, like OCD, like washing
Oh
his
yeah.
hands and stuff. There weren't germs. There wasn't this germ theory. Medical science was not at that level. Like, what does it matter? There's blood here. There's blood there. It's just you're doing a thing, and but so sometimes these new thinkers are really castigated, judged critically hard, but then you got to look at the outcomes. What
Right.
happens?
And I think we'll do that. Like, we'll look back, right, and we'll be like, oh man,
Duh.
they didn't even realize that the sun was, that the earth was going around the sun, or they didn't even wash their hands. What a bunch of idiots. Well, we're the idiots right now in
Right.
history, in right, like, so, like, quit being so freaking certain and maybe just open your mind a little bit, because things are going to change. The world is going to be vastly different, and have the humility to say, you know what, you're probably the idiot now if you can't update your reasoning.
Yeah, and we're all experiencing a quickening in the world with technology and AI, and I mean, it's just what next? What next? It's our brains evolved through millennia of natural forces and survival, and then the social layers, and then some technology. But the process was sort of steady and slow, and our brains evolved to a world that navigated a different kind of a time preference or a different set of incentives and priorities. And now that is being pushed into a modern world of tech and everything else, where just generation by generation, and as a Gen Xer, just in my lifetime, you see how the internet evolved from things, and before the internet, and having that kind of mental flexibility is key. And just from the way we're wired, it's inherently hard also, because it's nothing but change, constant change. Just when you got something kind of figured out and you have your new map mapped out, it's different, or you're managing a new paradigm, if you will. And so we're being challenged constantly, and faster and faster and faster. Uh,
I think the
it's not
noise.
good. What's
I
that?
don't. I think the noise is louder. I don't think like the first principles base layer of things is really changing. I think we just have the tools are evolving, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't think, and again, I'm the kind of person I'll say things and I'll think something totally different tomorrow, or I'll watch this back and I'll hear myself and I go, I'm full of shit on that one. And I think that's completely okay. I think updating a thought or an idea is perfectly natural and normal, and we should be willing to do that. All that to say, so our tools with AI and information no longer has gatekeepers, and but evolution itself isn't telescoping. Our
Mhm.
our access to information is. The ability to critically think isn't. It's still the same machinery. It's just that it's having to filter through a lot more. So
Mhm.
I think that the real test and the real skill is the ability to critically think and update, based on the amount of information, and to be able to see. It's really hard, right? Because like,
Mhm.
you got to know what your filters are. You got to know the lens you're seeing the world through. It doesn't mean the lens is right or wrong. It's not a value judgment. It's just understanding that, I I'm seeing the world through the lens of a fitness influencer today, or I'm seeing the lens through or I'm seeing the world through the lens of a tech guru, or through Claude, or like, I'm just, I think the ability for humans to be able to sort through this information is going to be paramount. I think
Uh,
that is the skill. And it sucks because our schools taught us how to be workers and tax slaves. They never taught us how to question things.
mhm.
So now, what I think is happening, and we see it, AI is easy. You can ask a question and it'll give you the answer. You can ask it to write you a post, and now your AI is talking to this AI and their conversation back, and you're just a facilitator because you didn't think about what the fuck it was saying. Excuse me.
That's fine.
So the that ability to filter through the information and not reach for the easy whatever. I'll give an example. So writing Bitcoin, not crypto, editing it. So I wrote this thing out, editing it. What I do? I plugged it in as a copy editor. Like, hey, find me any mistakes. Find me whatever. Is there anything here I'm missing? Very reasonable question. Well, what happens? It starts giving me ideas. It starts like, hey, you could improve it here. And now what am I doing? I'm reaching for it. Now I'm reaching. It's giving me the easy answer. And you know what? Maybe that's why I don't like the book that much, because I used an AI and I kind of took the soul that I originally had out of it.
Mm.
I didn't, it's not like a copy and paste thing, but it was like it would take an idea and say, hey, this is probably a better way. Oh, that should go there. All reasonable things, and all reasonable things a copy editor would do. So with this book, I made very sure 0 sentence level edits. I wanted it to be imperfect. That was the whole point, was that it was the imperfect machine working.
Right.
So, like, all that to say that it's very, these tools are very easy to work for because they make, I think humans search for ease and comfort. They make thinking, unfortunately, very easy, and we mistake it for thinking, and we mistake it that we're smart because we had a prompt. Now, if you have a conversation with it, it can be a very good partner. It can be extremely valuable when sorting through ideas, questioning beliefs, finding weakness, steel manning, straw manning arguments, finding logical errors. But it is a math machine. Every output is a logic statement, a probability statement. If you watch how it writes, you can tell right away what is AI because it follows the same. It's a function of it's boom, dink, and it's like mathematical output with language. And being trapped or trapping ourselves in that because we're reaching for quick solutions, right, to problems. I don't think any of this is like, there's no malice involved, right? We just
Sure.
don't want to look like fucking idiots.
Right.
We just don't want
Yeah.
to look stupid.
Yeah.
So we'll run it past an AI and then hit copy paste.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and
And
you know, I don't know. Maybe that's the world we live in now, and maybe that is what it is. I'm just saying that having the tool of your own brain to critically think through these things on your own is going to develop a muscle that no AI will ever have.
right.
And
People have a lot of
that humanity, that piece, I'll just tie a bow on this, that piece is where value is going to come from in the future.
yeah, right. The thread of humanity needs to run through our past. It's our past. And I think when people get scared about technology, AI, a scary future about it, we're afraid of losing the humanity in it. That, we don't want to come to the ultimate truths having just logicked our way through it, and then there it is, copy and paste. And where is humanity left in that? It's like technology, AI included, but new technology is being perpetually a tool, maybe a very, very enmeshed tool, but not a crutch in the way where we lose ourselves. So we say, we as humans, we want to retain that sense of self, our spirit, our soul, if you will. And if that we don't want that to get replaced, where do we fit now? Are we just working for AI now or technology now? We're just the cogs that do the things, or maybe not even needed for that. And so, like, having it useful to us, but that we still maybe do retain control, guide it. We say, hey, go out and touch grass, go out and walk in the sand. We navigate these worlds of tech and information and all this stuff, and we have to stop and pause and remind ourselves and be grounded. Where did we come from? uh, who are we here on this planet? And retain that sense of humanity about it all. I guess we don't want to lose the humanity in all this.
Yeah. I mean, perception has an author. Do you want that author to be a machine? Like,
Right.
look through your own lens yourself and not let a machine or an artificial intelligence shape your thinking.
You know what I think spooked me recently? Not recently, a few months ago. Jensen Huang with NVIDIA was talking with on a podcast where basically AI had modeled out everything that they can glean out of humanity, which is kind of like the entire internet and then every other data source they can. Basically, AI now knows what we've put online. And so how does AI learn from there? So they have AI training AI. So they have AI creating a layer of processes of awareness upon a humanity's knowledge. And now AI is training off of itself. And it gave me a little chill where, okay, now AI is feeding itself back and forth. And then what? Is it the event horizon where now AI started with a block and now the chain just ran away and it gets to where what it is. And then we're way behind, just kind of, we keep contributing, but are we part of that anymore?
Right.
And that gave me a little chill of like, are we still here?
Yeah. And
I don't know.
you know what? Like, I think what Ray Kurzweil, the singularity is near.
Yeah.
He go, yeah. And then his recent nearer. He goes through that a lot. And I just, so, okay, AI is training AI. We get some singularity of information, and like all the information ever known is there. You want to know what it doesn't pick up, and you want to know what's not on the internet, is human nuance. There's nuance to every situation. Now, I don't think that, and you know what? Whatever. AI is probably better than I even imagine, and will be more powerful than we even imagine in the future. And yeah, it is. What am I going to do about it? I don't know.
It brings me.
Here's what I think. Honestly, I got an idea. I think there's going to be, it's going to turn potentially. There'll be the people who adopted technology, and the people who didn't, and it's just going to be like the Amish people, but it'll be 2026. People living with only tech from 2026 and back, and then there'll be cyborgs and people with Neuralinks and all this stuff too. And there'll be like battles between, I don't know,
the K-shaped reality of what being human is.
yeah, right.
When I played out these AI type thought experiments, I was imagining a future, and then some paths go toward things like the Matrix and Terminator and all that, and then another path goes to people that decide, okay, I can navigate all this. So what is it? What feeds my spirit still? Maybe it's, you know what, having a farm, having a family, getting grounded. And that's how we retain it all. It gets me to another layer to these thought processes where I had thrown up the idea of can AI develop a consciousness, or maybe has it? And Bitcoin Bazooka thinks it's logical that it will. What is, when we talk about belief systems, the belief machine that we are, and we consider ourselves kind of highly, in a way, conscious, and or that we have a real sense of personal agency. Some of that is the story that our mind tells us, and some of it is at a deep level authentic and true, that consciousness is a thing. I don't want to just say, oh, it's another mechanistic level on top of a mechanistic biology that we have, and it's that free will is an illusion. What do you think about free will and consciousness? I have some woo-woo thoughts about it that maybe we can go there, but here's where I used to be, and maybe still have a foot in the door of the feeling that through enough complexity, whether it starts out with laws of physics, and on top of that, we have our chemistry and our biology, and then organic chemistry, biology, and beings that know how to navigate and follow rules following rules of physics and stuff. And then on top of that, we develop a sense of, oh, it's survivable to have a sense of self separate from the other. And so then that evolves into social layers. And then all the social layers that you talk about in your book that it can go back to survival mechanisms, and it can be, it really is self-actualization in a at the biggest top of the Maslow's hierarchy there. So I would call it a sense of grounded, clear consciousness or an awareness. Is that real, or is it part of an experience we're having in a mechanical universe? What do you think about that? Maybe kind of philosophical there. And you don't have to have an opinion, but I wonder these things.
So, all right. Here's the way I've always thought of it. Our consciousness is like our continuity, right? We look at ourselves in the mirror. We never really, it's the same person always looking back. It's the observer behind the observer. It's the one in the back who's seeing. So you're looking out through your own eyes. You don't see yourself growing up. Your consciousness is the one in the back observing the observer. And now, are we all one consciousness experiencing ourselves subjectively? Who fucking knows? I don't know. There's no, I don't know. I think it's important to, I've just always thought of consciousness as like the one observing. And it is kind of that continuity, right? I don't know. Where was the other question? Are we in a mechanized world? I don't know. I have no way to prove or disprove it.
Right.
Maybe it's all simulation and we're in the matrix. But I don't know if the machine that is in the matrix could ask that question.
Bazooka touches on something here where science is starting to show us that in a lot of ways, the reality of, you mentioned the observer. What is doing the observing? What is it that is the observer here? Like we feel it in ourselves as we observe. Other things in this world perhaps observe things, and that the nature of reality is rendered, quantum mechanic level stuff, that things don't exist until they're like observed and then render. And so I've sort of, you could get into a kind of mechanical view of the universe that's like mechanistic or whatever, and then like, are we just experiencing this? And then I'll also see other evidence and other things where people have, not to get too woo-woo, but other stories and evidence that people have that connect with things like near-death experiences or memories of past lives. Now, you could frame those as experiences that we have that we think are real that are not what we think they are, and we don't really know. Things like knowing things that you couldn't have known, the telepathy tapes type stuff. I don't know. You get into like DMT in the psychedelic world, and is there something continuous there between different people's experiences or things that they share? I got to a point where I felt like consciousness itself exists at the base layer, and that the consciousness is what creates what all of this is. And then we as humans have a conscious experience that is one observer in this kind of universe of observing, if you will, that the ultimate observer is reality itself having this experience, and that we are here sort of contributing to that as we navigate our lives. Like, who knows what's right or wrong, good or bad. We have these painful experiences, amazing experiences, and we decipher things as being like, oh, what keeps me alive and what threatens me, what's good, what's bad. We have these opinions about that, and what the universe is having is sharing our part of that experience, contributing to kind of like I don't know, the Akashic Scrolls or something. But anyway, that's kind of where I've started to ponder my thinking in terms of something metaphysical that I think connects to the philosophy that you talk about in your book, which is at least trying to get real about it, try to perceive clarity, and do the work to um, be more honest with yourself and grow from that. Does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the brain is an antenna and we're just uploading to some,
Right?
you know, anything's possible. I
Yeah.
I don't think we can definitively say anything on that level. Like
Right.
I don't even, to be honest, I don't even think like we could comprehend in our most DMT addled state even what is actually going on.
Right.
Um, it's entertaining. It's certainly, it's certainly interesting, but um, I don't have a strong opinion at this moment, one way or another, publicly.
Yeah. Maybe if there was some truth, say there was some truth to be known about it, it's not conducive to our personal growth or development or being human.
Well, and that somebody hearing that who's had some type of experience is certainly going to say that it is true. Like saying that, made some truth, like they.
Yeah.
So all right, here's something I learned this week, that I have anaphasia or aphantasia.
I
Sorry.
was reading about that. I wasn't going to bring it
Yeah,
up, but since you did,
I didn't even
tell
know
me
it was a
about
thing.
that. Yeah.
So I didn't even know it was a thing. Like evidently people see things in their brains, like images or hear things or whatever.
I always took that for granted. I can close my eyes and replay music.
Here's my point. Here's my
Yeah.
point of this. We have no idea what is going on in somebody else's head. That is
Mhm.
what this has taught me. I had no idea people were walking around and could just literally hear the word apple and see an apple in their mind's eye. I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know. It enters my brain as some type of logical statement or whatever. Like I don't even know.
Hmm.
So my but I do have a feeling that I've always had and I've always known about. And just because you brought up near death experiences, fuck it. So when I was 3, I drowned.
You were what?
I drowned.
Oh. Oh.
I was revived on the beach. And when I was thinking about this aphantasia stuff and I was trying to picture things in my mind, the only thing I see in my mind is me above a 3-year-old me.
Interesting.
And the only thing I can feel is the warmth of the sand. And I don't know how I feel about that. So when you ask about consciousness, and there probably is something outside of us. I don't like, I get really fucking emotional even thinking about it. I don't even know why. But like it is my death. Maybe that's why I lost the ability to see images in my brain. I don't know. But when I try to picture it, that's the only thing that's real to me. And it's the only picture that I have is me looking at me outside of myself. And it's really messed up. And I don't know, it's been messing with me in the last week. And it's so weird. I had no idea this was a thing. Somebody said the word and I was like, just joked about it. And then like, oh no, this is an actual thing. And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, people are just walking around here. My brain doesn't work like these. I mean, I understand that none of our brains like are the same, but like, oh my gosh. And for a while I was like, felt like something had been taken from me, that some like ability was gone. Cause like I can't like picture my mom's face. like, I don't know. Like all I have is the memory, like how I would describe her, but I don't see her face.
Like you have feelings about it. It's just not visual.
Correct. Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. So, but I can hear like music. Like if I think of like, I don't know, Alice in Chains just popped in my head. I can hear an Alice in Chains song in my head. So I get the concept of it. It's just that isn't there.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
just kind of to the whole I don't even know what that is. Maybe it was a freaking dream. Who knows? But like it's the one thing I actually remember was a freaking death. And it
Huh.
was known, which is kind of messed up to think about.
Right. Yeah, you question the limits of what our mind is, the soul that we have. What is that? And then what is that experience we have? If we don't have a body that is giving us the input, well, then beyond that, what is the experience that we're having, and where do we come? Where does that come from?
Well,
I
we're only as good as the sensors we have, like any scientific experiment, right? If you're first thing you do is you calibrate your instruments, and all our instruments are probably calibrated a little bit differently. So we're all having a little bit different sensory experience, and then it's going into this machine that already has all these pre-uploaded um, tendencies and inherited realities. So we're running everything through these filters, and we walk around wondering why we're having conflicts and stuff. Well,
Yeah, we don't know what's going on in other people's minds. And like, for example, with my wife, she has a very good mind's eye visually about memory. It's very visual. But when it comes to music, she can't think of a song and hear it. Or when she's hearing a song, if we both hear a song together, I'm hearing the melody and I can just like recite that in my head. Like it's in my brain now and I can recall it then. She can't do that, but she'll remember all the lyrics. And then I don't know any of the lyrics. I don't know any lyrics, but I can just play that song. Um, and so something came up about it, and it wasn't like it was an argument, but I found myself realizing like, I presume that other people think the way I do. People frame the world in a way that I do. At least if they're paying attention, then they get to more truth, then it must be like me. And I realize, she's as smart and capable and has truths like I do, but what's going on in her brain is not what I think is going on in mine. And then I'd be like, or people be like, "Oh, you can't do that," and they'd say, "Well, yeah, in a way, then I can't do something else." We just have different things going on inside of our brains, and then we build our beliefs and things upon our perceptions and experiences, and then when they collide, and we judge each other over sort of like you don't think or perceive the way I do.
yeah,
And coming to terms with that is kind of like what you get to in your book.
yeah, like nobody has nobody has a monopoly on truth or insight or the way the world is. Like we just don't. Um, it's just, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay not to know everything. It's okay, where that's just fine to say
Hmm.
that I think it's just fine to say that we're different and that our brains work differently. And we each have strengths and weaknesses that we bring with us. And knowing what those strengths and weaknesses are is also, I don't know, I think it's part of adulting, even. Like,
Yeah.
just,
Right.
one of my favorite parts about getting older is just understanding what I'm good at and maybe what I'm not so good at and what I should maybe defer to people who are and not wasting my time and energy on something that, I don't isn't going to work for me. And that doesn't mean don't grow and don't try to learn. It just means having an honest self-assessment of, your capabilities. There's
Right.
there's nothing wrong with knowing your limitations. Um,
Yeah, it's good actually to understand them better, find what they are, face them. I had an interesting experience reading your book, and it happened actually just this morning. And I was stewing on some things last night because as I'd been reading it, and you ask, you ask the reader sort of questions to, imagine, a scenario or what challenges you and how you respond to it, and without thinking about it too hard, I'm reading, I'm vibing, I'm getting through it and loving it. I love the book, and I'm reading through it. And then last night, then I was my brain, how like when you're studying something and then it kind of percolates and settles out, and even like a dream, you have a dream and it's like, what was that about? And so like last night I was thinking about stuff, and I woke up this morning, I was stewing on a past interaction I'd had with people where I was like challenged, and I realized I didn't react to it, but and yet it was like weighing on me because I thought, was I wrong? Did I come off as this? Did I mean this and not that? And what was there? And I started to consider their impression of me from their view. And it started to hit me like, oh, I might have been more wrong than I thought, or less right than I thought. And what your book is did for me as I read it was make me start thinking about how it is that I think and why, and the processes we all go through when we interact with others and try to understand ourselves better. And it got me thinking about things in myself that I was challenged by. And I actually was just reconciling that this morning of like, oh, sort of like wanting to like go back and fix that, but then also saying, you know what, I need to move forward, let it go, and learn from it now. And so already your book has taught me something about myself, at least giving me pause to reflect and evaluate. So thank you.
That's goal mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I mean
What,
that's
here's bringing it back to Bitcoin. Here's sort of maybe other Bitcoiners have felt this at times on your journey for petty reasons or maybe big picture reasons. As a Bitcoiner, and maybe you've experienced this, where the existential threat of, okay, if you've been through a bear market or two or three, you've galvanized the kind of conviction and understanding of why we Bitcoin, why we do this. And then down in there is that early seed of number go up. And when you translate Bitcoin to your meat space analog world, somewhere in there, the language of our money is in the dollar. That's kind of how we translate value in numbers. And like, it's hard for me to really reframe things in terms of Bitcoin. Like, well, one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Okay, let's just say that's true. And you'd like to pay off your mortgage, what does that mean? So the number is in there, the fiat, and the existential threat, if it's ever come upon your mind of what if, who knows what if Bitcoin failed? What if Bitcoin went to zero? What if something asymmetric so I imagine some people have had this experience recently. I hate to bring it up, but let me bring up Cold Card. What happened for a lot of people with Cold Card recently was that people had built up a construct in their mind about what Bitcoin was, how they did it. They'd done it for a while. It always worked. And then they feel like a rug pull, like that can happen. How did that happen? We just didn't know something. Well, some of us did or didn't do it that way. Okay. And I'm not judging anything here, but there's a lot of people that perhaps quite justifiably feel quite scammed or rug pulled or lied to, or, well, all these people were saying the same thing. The Cold Card thing connects with your book in the way that this belief machine had built up around the notoriety or the brand of Cold Card. And we all felt like we were verifying stuff, going through verification processes, and yet there was a deeper layer of trust in there. And what do you know? That trust wasn't deserved. So people are facing this, imagine this existential threat or sense of, God, what if like, I think I've done all the things and the math is the math, right? Like, what else is there? Do I not know something? Am I missing something? Or are you done fucked up?
So, I mean, there's a couple. First, to your first point, unit of account is the final boss. I really think so. Until Bitcoiners start pricing things in Bitcoin, we'll never reach money status. We'll never.
Right.
But on the whole, so, and I touch on self custody quite a bit in this book because it's using Bitcoin as a constrained environment. It puts self custody directly puts us next to our idea of responsibility. Now, here's the thing, and whatever. Bitcoin is a software program or a network, right? It follows rules the same way the laws of physics follow the rule, or nature follows rules that we know of, right? So this incident not only showed people's relationship with responsibility, and this isn't a bailout, but it also showed that, you know what? Like, life's not fair. You can think you have everything done. It could have been any wallet. Let's just say, like, I had a cold card. I have a cold card. Cold card Q. I dice rolled it because I'm like, why would I? But I did it once. And I had a passphrase on it. But I mean, there could have been a vulnerability in any of the could be. And
Well, just imagine what if the bug had you go through all those processes and then it still filtered it through some 30-bit little RNG.
Well, that's the thing. In the end, like, wasn't it just some dude who was like couldn't figure out how to, like, and he just turned off some setting?
Or like, well, it runs now.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, you can do everything right in life, and you can drive the speed limit and still get hit by another car. It's unfortunate. It doesn't mean that it's right, but it is also closer to reality than a system that pads everything. Now, here's the thing. Some people will meet that and think that a system that matters shouldn't be that cruel. And I don't have an argument against that.
Yeah.
There's not, I mean, it just, again, like, it puts you in that relationship with don't trust spirit. Like, Cold Cards code is open source. I never looked at it. Right. I just opened the thing. Everything was sealed right. I, did all the stuff at the beginning, and I'm like, I probably don't want the passphrase that's on here or the seed phrase that's on here. Yeah, I want to set up a pin or whatever. And then I connected it to Sparrow the same way I would, my passphrase and everything. And, like, I don't think a person would reasonably know you should do that.
Yeah, I was just imagining, like, let's just say I'd gone and looked at the code, and I can read code, and I see all the logic here. Yep, that looks legit. Oh wait, what's this setting back up here though that says 0? Exactly. I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and then you check an update and it says -1. Who would or you know what I mean? Like, who's even gonna do that?
Right.
And it's so unfortunate that, but in the end, I don't know. Like, a part of me is kind of cold about it. Just as far as, like, this is the system. Like, it wasn't Bitcoin. Bitcoin wasn't at fault in any of this. Bitcoin just kept running and doing what it was supposed to do. But there is something very cruel about a system, and very liberating about a
Right.
system that just follows rules. And if you type in a letter wrong in an address, your life savings is gone. Or some guy can just change the settings somewhere. I don't know, like, and I don't have the technical background to speak about it on any type of level. I just know I used it, and I can't help but feel a little bit of luck, to be honest.
Yeah, me
I,
too,
I,
in a way.
I
Like
mean,
yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. And I'm not. There's so many views on this, and so many just pieces that I'm sure I haven't considered, because you just don't know what you don't know. All I can say is that, like, you know, my heart goes out to anyone who I don't know anyone personally, but if I can only put myself, who I am now, in their shoes, and, like, fuck, that's
Oh
all I can
man.
say is, like, man.
The timing of your book is incredible in that regard, with all the things kind of popping lately, whether it's BIP 110, whether it's the cold guard card deal, whether that now that the zeitgeist of Bitcoin is shifting, and it strengthens everything about Bitcoin, having had this catastrophe occur, and people realizing, oh wow, we were trusting in more ways than we knew, and um, it's going to strengthen Bitcoin, but it's causing a lot of people to come to Jesus with what their base is around it. And ultimately, what I thought too was, so the timing of your book being perfect about how and what we believe, and how we navigate Bitcoin itself, and that pucker factor you have when you're just moving a bit more than you're moving something substantial somewhere, and you're just like watching for that confirmation, and just like, come on,
Yeah.
because you know that it works, and you have to verify it, and so you feel that. But your book just touches upon these things we go through as we navigate Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, it's using Bitcoin as the constraint environment that puts us closest with consequence. Is I mean, really, I mean, there's a entire section in the last chat. It's called "Bitcoin's Not the Point," right? And it basically says, if you got this far and you think Bitcoin's the point, you missed it. Bitcoin was just the lens to understand our relationship with who we say we are and what our actions actually show. And it's an unusually clear mirror that we don't get
Yeah,
in everyday life. Um, and you know, I think I do all, I say, like, I'm convicted on that. I don't, or I, have conviction. I see this as whatever, but that's also something somebody, when you're inside your machine, you can't see outside of it. You, you don't, you don't, like, I don't know how else to put it, but it's like, that's something someone would say about a bank.
yeah,
I think is how I
right,
put it. Is like,
yeah,
I'm sure, like, everything yada yada, but that's the one thing I can't verify. You can't verify your own certainty on something. You just know, you have your information, but the world is the world, and there could be a software update that makes you question a lot of things. As far as,
yeah,
like, using the cold card example, not in Bitcoin, but
sure.
using I don't want somebody to think, oh my God, he thinks you can make software update. No.
Bitcoin
Uh,
offers this existential threat to all of us that we don't know. Like, no, no, Bitcoin's Bitcoin. I'll read something from your book here, The Belief Machine. Bitcoin is a mirror rather than a forge. Long contact with consequence can exercise capacities already present and may, over time, help develop capacities that were thin. What it cannot promise is character on demand. What a person sees in the mirror still depends on the history they brought to it. So Bitcoin really puts a mirror on a lot of your values, your beliefs, what you think works, the construct and cushion of bubble wrap we have in our world of trust and how we navigate typically with money. You grow up learning about money subconsciously. Oh, just money is this way and that way. Money's money, and oh, banks and fraud protections and all these things. And then Bitcoin shines a light on the core basis of a property that is, it's all on you. And so I think some people look at Bitcoin and what happened with Cold Card. I'm just wondering what the lawsuits could come out of all this at all these levels of people who Bitcoined and place blame versus taking responsibility for it, and how hard and emotional all that is. Feeling like, kind of like if you say you had someone that helped you out in Bitcoin and something long ago even wasn't done quite right or as well as it could have been. And then stuff happens and you're looking at Bitcoin as like a money or a trade or something where your broker screwed up. It's not like number went down. It's more like your broker says, I don't know what to say. It's gone.
Mm.
And people not being able to reconcile, like, no, that's not how money or things that I have work.
Right.
Someone stole from me. Who's to blame? How do I get it? How do I crawl that back? Who do I go after? Well, maybe nobody, because Bitcoin's Bitcoin.
Yeah, and all these pads, like all this cushioning is like recent. Like it's not like humans evolved with banks that had 1-800 numbers to call. We are, for most our history, we've had direct relationship with consequence. It's just modern society has padded these things. So my point is that we're absolutely capable, right? Our gene pool wouldn't be here if we couldn't navigate like actual consequence. It's just all these are now social constructs and part of the story of a bank has a 1-800 number, or you can decline a charge on your credit card. Well, you know what? Bitcoin would be more closer to reality than a padded system that allows you to just get away with it. Not get away with it isn't the word, but I think you see my point.
Yeah.
But it's useful because it brings up like these abstract thoughts that we contact every day: money, trust, time preference, ownership, responsibility, risk. And it makes it no longer theoretical because we're actually in contact with it now. Like when you are actively participating in the Bitcoin network and you hold your keys and you are transferring your funds and you're riding the volatility and it some people will come to it and they'll see the volatility and be like, you know what, this isn't for me. And if they came to it honestly, I can't fault them for that. But if they just came to it like thinking, oh no, I'm the most diamond-handed person ever. In all these domains, and then you come to Bitcoin and it's like, well, now you're judging it a different monetary system on, you have the Bitcoin and then you have the dollars and you're watching your Bitcoin change in the price of dollars. And there kind of creates like this, like, knot in your brain a little bit that some people can't really wrap their heads around because unit of count is the final boss. But you're seeing it evolve in these most excellent ways as far as unit or store value, which has always been, but now you're able to actually like use it through Square terminals and it's great
Hmm.
seeing people use it. Um, but I think, to be honest, I think most people are still looking at it as a store of value, as money should be. But um, I don't know. I often go down like after this halving and the next, and the block reward is such. How are these miners getting paid if nobody's using Bitcoin?
Right. Yeah. I've wondered those things. The game theory of the long-term view on who's creating blocks and why, who's hashing and why. Perhaps there's a contraction there and it decentralizes. I don't know, but or maybe it centralizes. I don't know. Um, oh, I mean, I think about so many things. Do you ever, as you're writing your book and as you've thought through the things that you think about and done Bitcoin the way you do for years now, and I know Bitcoin Bazooka can relate to this because I made a post about this feeling I have that it resonated with him where you describe having a map, and I have built and constructed my own map as we do, and my map is, in a way, in my mind, it's very curious and it's wide and thin in places, but it's very encompassing. But I try to operate on first principles as best as I can, pay attention and be aware. And then I translate my map to my map that I navigate at work or with family, being on vacation, whatever. And I'll be at my kid's sporting event, and instead of like being intent on like, ooh, who's in first or second place, or what's the times, and um, what side we're rooting for, and all these things, I will zoom out and kind of I'll take in the crowd, the stadium, the system going on that brought this all together, and the people that are here, and what the gestalt of all of this is. I feel sometimes like I'm an alien, or maybe I'm a human placed on this planet with aliens, or I'm the alien and I've been placed on this planet without a clear map, without a real mission, um, and everything is strange to me. And I'll get in my Bitcoin brain, the thoughts in my head, the things I study, and trying to come to understandings about things. And then I walk out the door and go to the store, or go to work, or interact with friends and family, even. And it's just sort of like, I am freaking weird. I, there's no way for me to translate what I'm, or so here's an example at work. Hey, Killer B. Um, I I'll be at work and I'll be enjoying an experience that I'm having where I'm thinking, I'm learning, I'm studying stuff, I'm writing, I'm sorting out problems, or I'll just be like in my best sort of zone. And somebody will walk by and be like, "You okay? You look stressed." And I'm, because my resting face is kind of this, you know, like, "Oh man, I'm in it." But I probably kind of look like this, you know. And they see me like appearing to be stressed or concerned. And really what I'm doing is hashing like these core things that I just think like these I'm am I always fixated on like what I think is important, or that I want to do things that are important, that are meaningful, some base reality, and that like that deep meaning is something that is like serious, or do I take it serious? Am I too serious? When other people are just vibing and enjoying like water cooler, how is the game, bro? And I'm like, what season is it for what sport? I don't even know. Do you ever feel like an alien?
Yeah, of course. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess I've never thought of it like a visitor from another planet. I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel very no. I feel very human. Do I? But I feel some places I fit in very well, and some places I don't. I don't know. I think that's a very human experience.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe we all feel this in a way, in our own way.
so
We all kind of feel that.
yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I'll think about like, how would I explain this to an alien, or you know, how would I explain the human condition or describe it to another life form, or even another human, I guess. But like, yeah, I don't know. I no,
In a way, I imagine that by writing a book, you're putting all this together in a package that, you got all this stuff, you document it, you're documenting all of these things. And so then you can, in a way, conversationally, you can have a conversation about something, or you can mention, oh yeah, what's your book about? Oh, and you give them
yeah.
the elevator talk about it, and if they're curious, there's more we can talk about, and just you're weighing their interests and
Yeah.
where they're at. And if they don't, or if they don't understand or want to challenge it too, you can be like, you got to read the book. Go read the book. I'm not gonna like go through all this with you right here.
Yeah.
So the book can
I think that's a
galvanize
great
all that.
example. I think that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's exactly what it's like. But most people in my everyday life, my life is incredibly siloed. My work life is my work life. I leave that at work. My family life is my family life. I don't bring that to work. The people, my internet presence is my internet presence, and I don't generally intertwine all the masks I wear. I guess, if that's a way to put it. So nobody in my everyday life has any idea I wrote a book, any books. Nobody in my everyday life has any idea who I am on X. Nobody in my everyday life has any idea. And I think of all the, I don't know, the hats we wear, or I wear. Um, the the internet one is the most like honest one. The author one is the most honest one, because there's really no, like, what's the repercussion?
Right.
There's no real social like, what's the worst that happens if I make a post and someone disagrees with it on X? Well, I mean, to be honest, they call me an idiot, or they want to say something, or somebody, somebody sees this podcast and this guy doesn't know what the F he's talking about. That's great. That's where you're meeting me at, and that's what it is. Like, I'm not gonna expend any energy trying to disprove your mind. Like, that's literally the worst that can happen, I think. In my everyday life, now we're talking about, money, and, jobs and professional identity, and all these things, where, not that this part wouldn't mix and probably benefit me, I just don't, I'd be playing for a different room. Is really what it is. I mean, I'd be playing for a different room. And now all of a sudden, instead of being able to speak honestly and have this honest conversation, I'm thinking, old Billy Two Grit's going to be watching me, and having his own thoughts. And now I'm going to catch it on Monday. So now I start playing, for my friends, or, bosses, or whatever. And I think I don't know if everyone's like that. I don't know. I can't step inside someone else's mind. I just know that it works for me, and I'm being able to be more honest in each of the pieces of my life, or the roles that I play, if I just kind of keep them separate. So when I think about, like, somebody at a, soccer game, or, kids soccer, whatever, like, oh, hey, what you up to? I'm usually not a very interesting person.
I'm not good at small talk. I know. I'll be thinking all these things, and they're like, so how's work going? It's like,
that's good.
Fine.
Yeah, I can be staring off, like, literally having this conversation we're having right now, which is extremely interesting to me. And then, Joel walks up and is just like, oh, hey, what's going on? How's stuff? And I was, oh, it's good. Got a,
Yeah.
got a kayak, going fishing, and it's like, and but what is that? What am I protecting?
Right.
That is my machine meeting theirs and turning away.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
I was going to say, you're not sure if many people can relate to that. I was just going to say, I think a lot of people can relate to that. I certainly can. My life is siloed in that way as well. Funny story. Last night we were driving from this sporting event back to where we're staying, and I had your book on my mind. I'd been reading it intermittently while while there's downtime and stuff, and I was reading your book, and we were driving home, and your book conjured up a scenario in my head about things, and we're in the car ride home, and I was thinking about stuff, and there's conversation going on about the stuff, and I'm half listening, and I was thinking about something else, and I started laughing out loud to myself. I was like laughing, and my mother-in-law is like, "Oh, what's funny?" And my wife looked at me like, and I didn't even know what to say. I was like, I'm crazy. I mean, what do I say? Because I mean, to explain it to them is to get into a whole bunch of everything that makes no sense to them.
Right.
And I was you made me laugh. And so at work, I don't think anyone at my work knows I have a podcast. And I like it that way. It'd be like if you have a faith or a belief system, you don't necessarily want to wear that on your sleeve at work, because then people look at you as like that guy, or or then they're managing, well, they put a label on it. They're not going to fully understand it all and how deep they want to go, And so we do silo our lives to navigate aspects of it for work, for family, for our personal sense of truth seeking. And we kind of have to. And then it's when worlds collide, that's kind of where the magic is of how do you navigate that with other people? Like, how is the game, bro? Or how's work going? And handling yourself in those moments, and not needing to convince people of stuff. Also being good with being challenged. If somebody shows curiosity, but they're coming at it from like, well, so how is Bitcoin insured though? And you're like, and you could just go off into a whole monologue or process it. But we all deal with that, I think.
Well, good. Because, I just don't want to be the manager of my file in other people's brains. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like sometimes, like I just feel, people have their assumptions, and just you go in file cabinets and you get, put in a box, and now this is what you are, and people just develop a story and fill in the blanks. Well, I just want, these people can fill in the blanks this way. These people can fill in the blanks that way. And, Dave gets to know how the game went. I mean, forget that guy.
Yeah, totally. Brett, this has been awesome. I love these kinds of conversations. I think about this kind of stuff all the time. I look forward to finishing your book, because I'll want to talk about it more again later, and I'll be thinking about it from here on. But people can find your book at thebeliefmachine.org, thebeliefmachine.org. Check it out. You can buy it on Amazon. You can even get a signed copy, and it's a great book. I'm really enjoying it.
So you can pay in Bitcoin too. I mean, just walking the walk. I'm just saying, like, not that, but
buy a signed copy, shipped directly from the author. Bitcoin payment available. Check it out. Get yourself a signed copy. Available, of course, on Amazon. You've got it here on Amazon. I got the links in the show bio. Awesome. Your earlier book here, Bitcoin Not Crypto. Good read for anyone early on the path and going through that stage on the rabbit hole. It's good. Of course, you started Fugum. You can go to chewfugum.com. Chew the vibe. I've got my Fugum here, and and whenever I need that vibe, I can chew that, and it's the it connects to an experience. So some people, you can chew gum and it keeps your mind occupied, keeps the golems at bay. Fugum, of course, is on X, at Chew Fugum, if this will load. And I want to, at Chew Fugum, you can find that there. Because Bitcoin Cousin Brett is here on X at BCUZ21, because 21. Great feed also, by the way. What I love about your feed here, the imagery you've made, contributing to the vibe and the philosophy, the thoughts that you share, the art that you make, all of that is a relationship that we have as we take this journey in the path through navigating our lives, mapping our lives onto others and reality at large. Your feed's a good one for chewing the vibe. I love it. You're a great follow. I love what you do. I really appreciate the time you've given me today and letting me ramble at times. So I love this conversation, man.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for everything you do. Yeah. Are you going to be going to the Midwest Bitcoin Summit by chance?
I'm aiming to. I don't have my ticket yet, but I'm evaluating. So school is starting. I have a kindergartner starting school, and we're navigating a different schedule, like my podcasting schedule. I have to fit it. I used to have some morning times free, and I think my morning is changing. And also with that shift and managing family life and daddy's availability and presence flexibly for a turn of a season for us in our family. So kindergartner starting kindergarten. So that'll be a new chapter in our lives. Awesome. And I want to make sure that all is nice and that I have, what is that rhythm? I don't know that rhythm yet. So, but anyway, Midwest Bitcoin. Oh, I should bring that up. The Midwest Bitcoin Conference here. Yes, because you're going to be a speaker. Tell me a little bit about your speech.
I have no idea. I think I'm on a panel talking about Fugum and community maybe, but I haven't gotten a whole lot of info other than just what I've read about myself on their website. So stay tuned for more. I know Andrew has been doing an amazing job putting this together. I think it's going to be, this is the first ever. I think it's going to be one of those events that people will look back on and be like, that one was awesome. That was a so if you can make it, obviously it'd be great to see you. I had chats with you at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, but and anyone else looking for a good meetup or conference, there's one September 23rd, 24th in Columbus, Ohio. So
right in the Columbus, Ohio, September 23rd, 24th. I've heard good things about it. Sort of like, there's the Bitcoin magazine conferences, of course, and that has that vibe as we experienced in Vegas. Mm-hmm. I like it, and it's got its own vibe. The suits are there, of course. BitBlock Boom, really based. Prague, really based. And what I've heard about the Midwest Bitcoin Summit is it also has that based vibe. So it's one that I would like to get to. And anyway, if I can make it, definitely, I'm going to track you down.
Yeah.
So cool. Oops, I didn't even have that on stage. I thought I had this on stage. There it was. Midwest Bitcoin Summit 2026, September 23rd, 24th. I was looking at the speakers here, and as I was scrolling, I thought this was on stage. But in any case, a lot of good speakers here.
Yeah. So absolutely.
Cool. Okay. With that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for everybody joining us, and great conversation. And I'm going to finish your book and be stewing on this for quite some time. And we'll have to talk about it again in person, I hope.
Always happy to talk. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Bye, everybody.